I'm very excited to see that there are people who refuse to pay their water bills now when their water becomes fluoridated. Now that's an extreme step, but I think it's a very valid and reasonable way of taking non-violent but very strong action to show that you won't tolerate being poisoned by water authorities and by governments.
But apparently these people are now criminals because they're not paying their water bills. Haven't they got a right to refuse water that they don't want to drink or bathe in?
Yes, they should have that right, and we should not have to pay for water that we're trying as hard as we can not to use, and having to spend a lot of our own money to organise our filtration systems and alternative supplies of water.
And those people voted up in Mildura, and one of the things they voted for was to exercise a sanction, and that sanction was that they not pay rates in protest, not only water rates but land rates as well. So they've created for themselves a legal entitlement to not pay the rates. Now that's quite unique, and of course that's radical. However, this is a radical problem requiring quite, as it were, an appropriate response. Now, when somebody forcefully medicates, it's a violation of a human right, a fundamental human right of consent. That violation cannot go unanswered. It's not for the government to decide for us what's right and wrong for us when it comes to our own bodies. It must be we, the people, that have an informed consent.
Medicating the water with fluoride does violate every individual's freedom of choice, and yet for some reason governments take it on themselves to think they have the right to run a health program that overrides everybody's normal medical free choice and right to informed consent. So it's a kind of medical tyranny.
So where do you see this heading for your family, the situation that you're in with your family?
Well, it looks like if the government's going to take legal action against me, especially in the commercial court where my story won't be heard, it's just, do I owe the money? Pay up. If you don't pay up, we'll take your house. I'm going to have to fold on my non-payment, which was just trying to get the government to listen to me. I thought maybe someone would listen if I didn't pay the bill, but I'm just going to get railroaded there, and I know that. And I'm scared shitless of losing my house. It's the only thing I've got. It's the roof over my children's head.
And you feel that all of this has been caused because you simply refuse, that you've been railroaded into having to pay for water that has a chemical that actually your daughter particularly is severely allergic to, and all of this has been caused because of that.
Well, the way my daughter is with a compromised system after the year-long chemo, I mean, her kidneys, her thyroids, they wouldn't be able to handle it. It'd wipe her out. I can't allow her to have one drop, and because I know it's so deadly, even for my other children, I can't allow them to have it. I've done the research. It accumulates in your bones.
We also know that we only excrete between 20 and 50% of the fluoride that we ingest. It is bioaccumulative. That means that the remainder of the fluoride in our system collects in our bones, in our muscles and in our soft tissue. And we now know there is information out there to show that our Aboriginal people are highly sensitive to fluoride because of their small kidneys. Are we going to stop with this genocide of our Aboriginal people and making the rest of the community ill? Are we going to take a stand and say stop now, or are we going to wait until this is too late, until it's gone too far? And it will take us decades to recover from the damage that's been done.
I don't really have a social life. Most of I haven't got any. I've only got two friends. And they've stuck by me, especially one of them. He's just been absolutely amazing. And I've got my mother, who I do care for, so that's sort of like social contact, and I've got a special needs young adult son, and so that's virtually my social life, helping them and doing things for them. No more Saturday lunches with friends because I just can't go to a pub or a restaurant and eat the meals there. I just get very sick, and my friends just don't understand it because, like, it's just like a peanut allergy. Not everybody is, allergic to the fluoride or has any problems with it, and so my friends, they're okay, and they just cannot understand how I'm so sick. It's just very hard for them to wrap their heads around it, so they've just walked away, and I just hole up here. I'm a prisoner in my own home. I'm safe here without the exposure.
It's very unethical. It goes against all the principles of informed consent, for a start, for medical informed consent. How dare they? I mean, they put these chemicals that are industrial waste products into our water ostensibly to treat our teeth, to decrease tooth decay or prevent teeth decay, which doesn't work, by the way. But I mean, if you're a patient and you go to a doctor, the doctor will assess your need for medication. They will follow you up. They will have a dose for you, whether you're a child or an adult or an elderly person. If you have specific medical conditions that may not be suitable, they won't put you on that drug. They'll put you on a different drug. This is never considered with fluoridation. We have the right to choose our medication, and this goes against that completely.
We talked before about India and China. They have it naturally in there, and they know how bad it is. It belongs to the toxic chemical thing with aluminium and mercury and fluoride. They're down that end as toxic chemicals. And for many, many years before water fluoridation became popular, it was a rat sack, wasn't it? It was there to kill things. It's poisonous.
Worries me that governments can see fit to mass medicate us by putting fluoride, which is a toxic chemical waste, into our water. As a housewife, I would like to ask who is accountable for putting this in our water. You hear all of these abbreviations, ADA, AMA, NH, MRC, etc. and so forth. Are there real people behind these companies? Do they have children? Do they have grandchildren? Do they care? Do they care about us, the community, who largely are uneducated on this hydrofluorosilicic acid, if I can say it? We don't know who is apathetic here. Is it our so-called medical bodies? Have they really researched it? Have they looked into it? Let's make them accountable. I want them to be accountable, and let us know the truth.
What it should be the subject of is scientific testing. We need to have scientific testing, and that hasn't been done. And when fluoride was brought in here in Australia, a lot of doctors and scientists were against it, and the tests to prove whether it was safe or not were discontinued before it was put in the water supply. And the NH and MRC said about 18 years ago, I think it was, that this stuff should be tested for efficacy and safety, and it's never been done. This has been in the hands of dentists. Dentists don't have the knowledge about the human body. And the other issue I cannot understand is why we have Nobel laureates in medicine who say that this is bad for the body, bad for the brain, bad for babies.
Well, yes, you know what? We are very medically backwards and we're scientifically backwards, and I would even call it religious, because what we're expected to do is believe something someone's invented with no science backup, ignoring all the facts of the toxicity. And if you're supposed to believe something and ignore all the data and all the facts, then that to me is a religion. I don't want to base my life on a religious belief. I want the real science. I want the facts. I want this country, I want the Australian government to commission an independent study, not funded by Colgate or any of the chemical companies or the companies making a profit from the fluoride, the phosphate, the chemicals. None of those companies should be involved.
I cannot understand it. I really can't. It's a very unscientific attitude that's being displayed by the health department, and it seems as if they care more about the fact that it might be revealed that they've made a mistake, and maybe they might get sued by people who've been injured by fluoride, and they're, in a way, it's comparable to the cover-up that went on about asbestos and cigarettes.
It should be an independent commission, a study which is completely detached and autonomous to really look into the science, how much we are consuming, how much is in the food and the water and the pharmaceuticals, so we actually know how much we're getting. Otherwise, it's all based on assumption, and the risks of getting too much fluoride are so huge that it cannot be ignored.
In 2007, Australia's National Health and Medical Research Council released a report titled A Systematic Review of the Safety and Efficacy of Fluoridation. Fluoridation promoters and enforcers around the fluoridating world, but particularly in Australia, have popped champagne corks ever since. On the surface, such reports from authoritative research bodies appear to present a solid case for fluoridation to the general public. Prominent fluoridation promoters, such as Premier Anna Bligh in Queensland, her possible successor John Paul Langbrook, and Dr. John Carney, Victoria's Chief Health Officer, have cited this report time and time again to justify forcing fluoride on populations across the nation. Meanwhile, the gaping research gaps highlighted in previous international reviews, such as the 2000 University of York Review, are ignored and spun by Australian promoters to suit their own ends. Furthermore, truly in-depth reports such as the 2006 United States National Research Council report, Fluoride in Drinking Water, which do indeed set alarm bells ringing for the health dangers of fluoridation, are conveniently ignored, even by the Australian NHMRC review.